Hey everyone, welcome back to Tikka Talks. We've got a fun episode for you today with a couple of different topics. Samir, what do we got on deck first?
Now we got a couple of stuff. I gotta ask you, have you heard of Dior bags?
I've heard of the bags, yes.
You've heard of the
I
bags?
don't have any.
All right. So for those of you at home, there's orbs in the sky. Now look, I look crazy. I'm at home, right? And I'm telling my family members, guys, there's orbs of light in the sky right now. I don't think things are gonna be normal. And everybody's looking at me like, but we still gotta go to work tomorrow, bro. So I don't get it. I don't know what these things are in the sky, but it's freaking me out.
Have you seen them though? Have you actually seen them in the sky?
No, and that's why I'm confused too. Like, is it just on TikTok?
They say it's in New Jersey. I know we're far away from Jersey for everyone that's watching or listening. We were in Georgia, not New Jersey, but you could see that there's a lot of different sightings of orbs and drones in New Jersey. Like it seems to be, I don't know why it's centralized there, but apparently.
Maybe they were fans of the Jersey Shore at some point.
I guess so. Well, what do you think about them? So everyone talks about these drones or these orbs being either government controlled or a sign of the times. Like, what's your thoughts?
You know what? Honestly, best bet is with anybody at this point. But more than likely, I don't think the government's going to be not knowing what's going on. What's the likelihood that they're going to let drones over U.S. soil? At least without pinpointing them or doing some reconnaissance missions or some sort. There's got to be something going on. Intuition tells me that they're very aware of the presence of the drones. I'm not so sold yet if they do understand the phenomena around the orbs, though. That I'm not so sold on. But they definitely know what they're doing with the drones.
Do you think they don't care because it's just New Jersey?
Dude, honestly, I wouldn't care if it's just New Jersey.
No offense to any New Jersey listeners out there, but
that's the most light they've had in years when it comes to hope. Like, they need the aliens.
That's true. So there's two things in the sky. There's orbs and there's drones. The drones obviously are definitely man-made.
I can agree with that.
Potentially government, maybe not government. The orbs, people claim that these...
Or woman-made.
Or, yes, man or woman-made. The orbs, though, people say... Some people believe they are also man or woman made, but some people believe they're like souls in the sky, or they think they're like aliens coming to scope out the planet.
I tell you what, if I was a soul, you would be hard pressed to find me hovering over New Jersey, out of all places. Fair. Like, what are you going to see in New Jersey, right? It's the Garden State, but you can only see Chris Christie's fat from up there.
Fair, okay.
Yeah. But maybe it's just because it's Jersey. Everybody's like, it's Jersey.
Maybe that's where they start. Maybe they're like, let's check. I mean, I don't know why they would start there, but maybe that's their intro.
So a new word has entered my vocabulary recently. Plasmoid.
Okay.
For some reason, everybody on TikTok is saying plasmoid. Like this is some common vernacular.
What does it mean?
So apparently it's a buildup of plasma in the upper layers of the atmosphere that materializes itself in such a way that it looks like what we're seeing.
Okay. Specifically in New Jersey.
Specifically in New Jersey. Here's the catch, though. It's showing up in a lot of places, though, now.
Okay.
So, scientific approach, pseudoscientific approach, correction. Perhaps, if it is plasma, we're seeing an uptick of plasma. The only scientific corresponding reason I could find correlation to at this point is we're in a solar maximum. Is it possible that this is because of increased solar activity we're getting plasma in the upper layers like the ionosphere, etc.? Possible. But what's scary about that is if it's something so straightforward and scientific, why not let people know? And there's another point I was going to make off of that, which is if you don't want people to know about something so scientific, is it possible we're looking at something like a Carrington event again?
Interesting thought, yeah. So if that's the explanation on the orbs, what do you think is going on with the drones?
I think if that was the case, then the drones are probably up there trying to understand the phenomenon. And if it is a symptom of, the solar maximum going on this decade, perhaps they're getting some measurements, some readings off of it that help them, understand the severity of our situation. Because if it is a natural phenomenon, it's probably happened at some point during Earth's life cycle where humans were around.
It makes sense. I mean, you fly something up close to it to investigate. You get readings. You figure out what's going on. But what's weird is that you think that's a very plausible explanation that any sort of scientific body, government body, whatever the case is, would just say, oh yeah, here's this phenomenon. We have drones up because that's the closest we can get to it since we can't fly. And we will just go study it and take readings. And then I think everyone will just move on with their day. Except no one's taking ownership of any situation. The government says they don't know. No one's saying, oh yeah, I'm the one that's flying the drones out, or we're practicing for a New Year's Eve drone show, light show, or whatever the case is. So no one's actually taking any credit for it.
And it's pretty interesting. But there's a catch to it too. I recently saw, speaking of drone shows, in China, they were doing drone shows, right? For the Chinese New Year.
Yeah.
And it demonstrated to me the possibilities of drone technology and the coordination of these swarms. So at the same time, we're seeing all of this aerial phenomenon over our soil, thinking this is very new. This technology, or this type of visual aspect of the technology we're seeing, is possibly done via simulation with the drones.
Yep.
So it's possible the orbs are just light shows in the sky. Now, why they would do that, that's another question. I don't know. But then, because the only thing you can reach out for otherwise is there's some a biological spacefaring type of thing going on that we don't know what's going on, that we can't really put a finger on, or they don't want us to put a finger on, or maybe it's aliens. And I don't think it's aliens.
That's fair. I agree. I personally don't think it's aliens either, but I think we'll find out. But speaking of China, I think we got to talk about the TikTok ban.
Which is weird, because TikTok is a Singaporean company. But the reason we're banning it is because it's being propagandized into a Chinese app.
Exactly.
Type of an issue.
Because it's a national security.
Yeah.
Yes. So the terms of, for anyone unfamiliar, this ban's supposed to go into place, I believe, sometime in January. And it's not an outright ban. Like, there's two options here. There's the outright ban that's on the table, but then there's the option of, okay, well, the ByteDance or whoever the company that owns it needs to basically divest themselves because they're a Chinese company. And so if they were to sell to pretty much a non-Chinese company, right? I think that's the main concern that the government has. But if they were to sell to an American company, technically TikTok wouldn't be banned. It would just continue to operate as is. Everyone can continue to be on the platform. I read something earlier today that said TikTok contributes 250 billion globally to like the small business, the creator economy. So it's actually, it's a substantial footprint. I know the ban is US based, but that's probably a large portion of that 250 billion.
Which makes you think even further, why is this app being banned, right? Because it's a major economic necessity to a bunch of people in their creator economy here at home. And you can't help but think that the reason they're giving us is disingenuous, because we do have a bunch of apps which have Chinese vesting or Chinese fingerprints all over it that aren't being targeted right now, right? And we even have finance ones, like we're actually entering payment information. They can track our spending patterns, etc. So maybe they're afraid of propaganda from another country. Fair. But this is the land of the free, which, in my opinion, as somebody who's only been here one generation, that means being free to be exposed to propaganda and doing with it what you'd like.
Exactly. Yeah. Freedom of speech, freedom to think through and believe what you want to believe or not believe. What's interesting is the incoming President Trump, now in his second term, he was pretty against it in his first term. He actually wanted to have it banned. And now coming in, he wants to try to save it. I'm sure there's, not to get into the political side of things, but he did leverage that medium as part of his campaigning. And, he has a younger son who probably helped facilitate some of that. So I'm curious, do you think he'll be successful? Because technically it's with the Supreme Court to hear. And he did place multiple justices there. And there's supposed to be separation of branches, though we know we're human. That doesn't necessarily happen, the separation per se. Do you think he'll be successful in convincing them or finding another way to keep it from being banned?
If he does, It's going to be huge. No, that was terrible. No, I don't think he's going to be able to do it. I think he's well-intentioned. He's trying to keep people's spirits up. But practically speaking, this is going to go into effect actually January 19th.
Mhm.
And I believe Trump is in office the 21st, if not the 19th as well.
Yeah, I think he would be in after. Someone will have to probably correct us on that. But
I do know it's either happening the same day or prior to him taking office. And either or, I'll have to double check on that. The likelihood of him making a move, blocking it at the Supreme Court level, very unlikely, unless he's made some calls ahead of time to friends in the court and they've decided to take his influence seriously. But really, I think Don just knows how to play people. And he knows how to get the youth at the last yard to say, well, at least he tried for us.
Yeah.
And that would be a great political move.
That's true.
And I'm not saying he's doing it nefariously, but as a politician, it's a very good move to say, I'm against that. And I will try to save that app. Even though, realistically speaking, you're not going to be behind the wheel in time to swerve the car in the other direction.
That's fair.
So,
you have a good point. Maybe there's something brewing in the background that he's doing, given the timing differences there. But before we close off today's episode, I'll ask you, if it does get banned, where does all that content go?
Honestly, I don't think it goes anywhere. I think this was the final bastion for both normies and weirdos to explore freedom of speech and to put out ideas out there in a free-for-all type of free market laissez-faire playground. I think the odds of us getting a playground like that again are slim to zero. I think we will, without a doubt, end up with these paradigms where we'll have isolated nests for the right wing to have freedom of speech. We'll have isolated wings for the left wing to have freedom of speech and centrist. But I don't think these are going to be the same platforms. Just seeing how Twitter is unfolding, and Twitter has tried to do the TikTok type model, which we're going to freedom of speech for the most part with some guardrails. But even so, that's turned into more of a right wing echo chamber. That's not a bad thing. They have freedom of expression within that chamber. It just so happens that those ideas don't work as well in congruence with left-wing ideas.
Okay.
And then in the left-wing echo chambers, there's no way a right-wing person would survive in as well. And all that to say, I think the paradigm that TikTok brought us, that all of them could be on that platform cohesively and communicate with each other, that's long gone.
Yeah. So no more one-stop shop. You think you'll have kind of partitions of these different versions of apps that will service a specific need in the market. But TikTok was the unifying force. And you're saying you don't think there's going to be another app that will do that?
No, they're gonna end up isolating freedom of speech for different types of ideologies. But the freedom of speech for all of these ideologies within a single platform, unlikely to happen again, because it goes against really the idea of keeping people at odds against each other. Because if we're at odds with each other and we're not talking to each other, which is the only reason we wouldn't come to terms, is if we're not talking. Eventually you butt your heads enough and you realize we have to make compromises. If we take away our ability as a people to do that and reach that, then it becomes very easy for an overarching power to guide things in a more heavy-handed way than they would have otherwise. So,
well, let's see. We're recording this January 1st, so here in just a few short weeks, we'll find out what the fate of this is. So
who knows, man? Next episode, we might have aliens.
We might, Let's see what episode 2 brings. But thanks for watching and listening, wherever you're listening or watching this podcast. Make sure to follow us on all of our various socials, as we just talked about. So thanks for watching. Hey everyone, welcome back to Tikka Talks. We've got a couple of fun episodes.
Now this is one episode. We got one episode planned for you guys today.
2 topics.
2 topics, 1 episode, 2 men.
It's the band. All right, we'll restart.
2 men.